Hmm. Okay, here we are at day 81 of 100 Days of Live. Um, Today, oh, yeah, that's right. I want to switch to doing Zoom in the future. Doesn't keep doing this strange interface thing. Feeling a kind of sinking sensation through my head and my chest. Low energy. Um, I try to make Tuesdays one of my workout days, a day where I channel a lot of will and intention into moving the energy, the more subtle energy of my body, my feelings, my sort of working my capacity to be with intensity, um, and that transmits into the physical. Generally, this does fantastic for me. I can't seem to keep a consistent schedule with it. I just do it often, 1 to 2 times a week in practice. Sometimes 3. I had really wanted to do that today, but it was like a mental want, and I can feel this sinking. Um, I tried to burn through it anyway, and the sinking is too strong. And it felt like a violation to push. So I did just a little bit to warm up my body. I did a few push-ups. And this feels alive for me in part because I notice, well, there's this question of what can one do? What can one actually choose to do? I started noticing this after my talk yesterday. We gave a talk on the Stoa, on the first of 3 for unsaving the world. One of the things that I found myself sitting with afterwards was a recognition of, oh, right, so there's actually a dimension that is probably worth exploring in a lived way. Where is the actual point of free will? I've touched on this in previous videos. So it can sound very intellectual, but it's extremely practical. It's the practicality, the feeling, the tangible sense of the practicality of the question of where is my choice that I would love to embody more fully, and to encourage a recognition of, encourage a clear knowing of. So this relates to these exercises because I noticed this morning that not only is there this sense of slowing down, but there's a sense of difficulty accepting it. Like there's something wrong with me. There's a bit from one of the songs in Moana when she's um, um, singing about no matter how she turns, she keeps returning to the sea, and it keeps calling me, and it calls me. And it's just but she's not supposed to go out into the sea according to her father. And she's going, okay, I should stay with my people, but it keeps calling me, it keeps going. Okay, I've got it. But in the middle of that, while she's going, like, I'm trying to be a good daughter, but I keep being sucked towards the sea. What is wrong with me? Got the notes wrong, but there's this sense of what's wrong with me. And this seems like a really powerful and important point of awareness. It was one of the critical points of one of my meditations over about a week earlier this fall. And I was feeling some of that here. What's wrong with me? Like, it's important for me to build this energetic capacity to do subtle body building. I'm using terminology from previous videos, but I'm talking about the way that there's a certain range of ability that I've expanded with time, and I can tell I can expand more, having to do with how much sensation can I be with, how much sorrow, how much joy, how much just raw physical, this food is really spicy, or but also at the emotional level, watching a really embarrassing situation on the TV. Like, I can't stand this. Like, is it like that, or can it be, okay, I feel all of it. And building that capacity to feel all of it. So there's room, like that activation, that energy has space. It's one of the essential components for being able to be conscious and be here. Otherwise, all the reactions to sensations are everything that I do, and it's all robotics. It's all just being a cog. So the first hint of free will, like the strength that the free will is built on, is this capacity to be with sensation. To me, this is incredibly clear once felt, once seen. And that's the same way that I can strengthen my physical body. I can strengthen my sort of emotional body, my subtle body, the level at which I feel music rather than hearing sound. How am I touched by a piece of poetry when I feel the beauty of the sunset? That part of me that is touched, that has capacity to grow. It requires a kind of building, a kind of strengthening. So that's a lot of what I use these exercises for. It's not predominantly for getting my body to be healthy, but that is a downstream effect. It's a very natural effect from doing this kind of workout, the way that I do it. The workout connects the subtle and physical. And the result is that my body becomes healthier because of the way that I am connecting them, and I am strengthening the capacity of the subtle. So there's a lot of reason for me to look at that and go, this is important work. It's really valuable work. And I notice, for reasons I don't understand, my energy isn't into it. Some mornings I wake up and it's like, man, I am raring to go. It is time. But sometimes I have it as a plan. Oh, I'm going to do my workout today. Tuesday, TIR, or I may have I sometimes get some of the detail names mixed up, and it's possible that Tyr and Tu are different characters, different people in Norse mythology. But the reason we have this as Tuesday is because Tu, and I think also Tyr, were the Norse gods that the Romans recognized as the Norse equivalent of Mars. That's why in French it's Mardi. Mardi is like Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras means Fat Tuesday. So there's this tone of Tuesday being the day of Mars. That was the name the Romans gave it. So there's sort of a playful bit of symbolism in saying, okay, well, a day for forging the will and pushing through, burning off detritus, and making, like, not just my body, but my will more refined, and to give it an exercise, to prepare for meeting intensity with still clarity. That's a martial capacity. There's a reason why we call them martial arts. Martial and Martian actually mean the same thing, of Mars, relating to Mars. So there's a fun bit of symbolism for me about making sure when I can that Tuesdays are workout days. Like, it just feels a little playful. And there's a way to play into it that feels meaningful, that actually helps with the subtle body workout. But not today. It's just not an option. And I could force it, but I would have to do it by numbing out my awareness of the energies as they sit, this kind of more calm, more stillness. A desire to rest, and a little bit of a strange tug to check out. Lots of wanting to watch videos and just blot my mind out, read, and do things that'll disconnect me from my body. So taking the time to breathe and go, what do I actually feel in my body? Including this desperate attempt to run away. We have our little orange tabby, we refer to as our ginger whinger, who's downstairs going, "Meow, meow." He just does this sometimes. My parents left on a walk, and he does something that sounds like he's very upset, but as far as I can tell, it's just, I am hearing the sound of my voice echoing. So you may hear him in the background. He sounds very pathetic. That is probably the most spoiled cat on earth. So, on the surface of it, there's actually nothing wrong with just going, oh, well, today I had a plan. That plan doesn't happen because doing that plan requires violating the purpose of the plan. I would have to numb myself out from my own body signals in order to strengthen my capacity to be with the signals of my body. That doesn't make a lot of sense here. So that on its own, that's just fine. That's just true. But then there's this extra energy of, what's wrong with me? Maybe shit. Am I doing this wrong? Am I messing up somehow? It's like this bit of extra energy that's shunting into some narratives in my mind, and it's activating them and stimulating a pain. It's an old pain groove. Am I messing up on life? Am I doing things wrong? It's a recurring struggle for me. I had a blessed brief reprieve for about a month after going to Mexico. That was wonderful. Actually going, there's nothing for me to do. There is nothing to get wrong because there's nothing to get right. And I could feel that. And even as I say it, I can feel an echo of it. It doesn't quite address the generator of this. That thing slipped over to things like, there's this program I'm putting together, and if I just sat down and I made it happen, then I could put things together, and that would be fun, right? And like, this is part of the gift that I have to bring the world. And am I putting it off? And am I like, why am I going so slowly? I could have it done by the end of the day. I could put this thing together. I see what to do. Oh, but I need to put an advertisement, and I need to put, like, but that's just pushing, and am I messing up that way? But am I going too slow? And, oh, it just hurts. And that pain, right, lower heart, that pain's disconnecting me from the very awareness and sensitivity that brings me into connection with the frequency that is the training force. Now, I can explain that in a little bit more, but it's disconnecting me from the source of creativity is a way of saying that. And B, it is a direct violation to believe that stuff and go, okay, look, let me just make this thing work. It is a direct violation of the content of what I would have to share. I would only be able to share it that way by being hypocritical, by not embodying what it is that I want to create. It's not even really that I want to create it, it's more that I am struck by the beauty of it, and I look forward to being a vessel for it, and it's coming. But it's a little bit like there's something dangerous about, as a child is being born, reaching, grabbing the kid's head and yanking out of the mother. There's a reason the kid is going at that pace. Right? Some of it is for the kid, and some of it is for the mother, and some of it is for their relationship. But there's a lot of complicated interrelating that's going on there. Treating it like a mechanical process where the goal is to get the baby body out of the female mother body and thump. That is why birth is traumatizing for so many women. It's having that energy soaking the environment and permeating even the mother's mind. You just lay there, and we medical professionals will deal with the official process of your body doing what it needs to. It is a massive disconnect from truth, from the ground of truth. And this is the same way I'm noticing the parts of my mind that are keyed to a culture that produces things like that medicine attitude towards, medical attitude towards birth, mechanical attitude. that same mechanical attitude is everywhere, and it shows up in, well, what is my value? My value is in what I can produce. This is especially strong probably because I am a guy, and that's the kind of narrative that I've been soaked in. My value is in what I can produce. I don't relate to it, but I notice that I experience it in parts. So I'm feeling all of this, and I notice how once this pain of what is wrong with me is activated, it just moves around and tries to find some place to latch on to. It's a really familiar feeling. It's really familiar. And just talking about it gives me a clear sense of grounding and peace that I'm grateful for. Recognizing, oh, right, and I am not that energy. Sometimes these subtle inflammation patterns, these emotional outbursts, um, etheric parasites. Like sometimes they'll grab a hold of my mind and then convince me that I am thinking thoughts that need to be sorted out somehow, and they're wrong. Those parasites are always wrong. Because the purpose of those thoughts is to keep me feeding the parasite. I can see that very clearly. It's just sometimes I am not as strong as I need to be for a given one. Sometimes I get a little bit lost and it hurts. So that's where I am right now. I feel like because I mentioned it, it seems worth touching on, and there's a piece of joy in me for reflecting on this. So I want to clarify a bit of what I had said there. And what I'm putting together is a space where a very specific type of subtle energy, a very specific type of frequency can permeate instead. The same kind of thing of, I think if we view the world as there's a physical plane and then there's a more subtle plane. There's a very classical way of talking about it in esoteric traditions, or like, and you can include Buddhism in this. Like this is all over the place. It's just that in our in the westernized world, we pretend something like the physical is the only thing that's real, even though there's a question of, well, okay, so what is a political party? I mean, in the United States, is the Democratic Party real? Is the Republican Party real? They're not physical, not exactly. They're made of physical parts, but they're not physical things. Or how about corporations? What is a corporation? The word corporation literally means an embodiment. Incorporation is a legal process of taking something and making it a person for certain legal purposes. That's why it's incorporation, it's embodiment. It's making it so that the same laws that apply to somebody who has a body apply to a corporation, kind of. Some of them do. The main thing is that it is possible for a corporation to own things. And it's possible for a corporation to owe taxes. Whereas if you have a group of people who are working on a project together, the project can't own things. Only the people in the project can. But a corporation can have a tax ID number the same way that an individual can have a social security number. That's the whole game. That's what it means for something to be a corporation. So the question is, well, if that is an embodiment, if that's a corporation, what is being embodied? We don't have to pretend that there is some sort of truth that is fantastic, some sort of astral imaginary world or some sort of ghosts or something like this. Although I think that there is, I don't mean to dismiss the experiences of ghosts either. Like my great grandparents were spiritualist ministers. The type of people who, at the turn of the 20th century, were involved in table tipping and channeling spirits, and so like that kind of lore exists in my family. But this is not a question of belief. This is a question of looking around and noticing what what, like we use the word music for this way of being graced by sound. But the word music comes from the muses. It's like, and same as amusement. The muses were these beings that would come and inspire, where the word inspiration, spiritus, is breath. So an inspiration, right, it's literally an intaking of breath, like the muse has just breathed insight into your being and now is gracing you with a way of engaging in the flow of creativity. The reason we talk this way, the reason we use these metaphors, and we have talked this way for so long in at least the West, certainly I imagine there are analogs throughout the non-Western dimensions of the world, even the parts that aren't yet Westernized. There's this, there's an intuition that fits. It's fitting something about reality. So talking about an experience, a layer of experience, which is obviously real. It's just a question of, well, if you're going to treat the physical world as actually real, whatever that means, how does the subtle realm relate to the physical? That's complicated. But we don't need an answer to be able to interact with the subtle realm, or to acknowledge it, or to look at it, or to see its mechanics. You can do engineering at the subtle level without knowing how it relates to the physical. We do it all the time. So, in the same way, if we look at sort of like the thing I was mentioning earlier about, well, what is the context of somebody who is giving birth in a hospital? There is typically a tone of like you, soon-to-be mother, are now the subject. You are the patient, and we, the medical staff, are going to take control of the situation for you. We're going to take care of you because this is a dangerous thing, and we're going to make sure that that this happens well. You just follow our instructions. You take this pill. You deal with vaginal exams. Oh, you don't want a vaginal exam? Well, you must be delusional because of the hormones, and we're going to give you one anyway. Like, I kid you not, this kind of thing happens all the time. A lot of people have been trying to whistleblow on this stuff, and it's hard because it looks like care from the current model of care. But the reason these physical things manifest is because of the subtle tone. The tone of, this is a medical, mechanical process, and what care means is to make sure that the mechanical process happens in a way that results in life being there. Like, the mother is healthy and safe, the baby is healthy and safe. If that happens, check mark. We'll ignore the question of how much trauma there is as a result, because that's subtle body damage. But subtle body damage isn't real, right? Right? That tone is a subtle frequency. It is a feeling that permeates a space. You feel it when you walk into a hospital, you walk into any kind of formal medical establishment. There's this feeling of authority. And it even shows up in the kind of lighting they choose. Everything is very stark. It's very practical in a particular way. And there is care and cleanliness, but there's also something very sterile about it. Something about the deep holding of a heart and tenderness. That might exist in islands. You'll find this in some nurses, but not all. You'll find it in a few doctors, but not most of them. Because that tenderness doesn't have the nutrients it needs in that subtle field. So you soak in a subtle field like that, and you will find your own subtle body sort of shaping to fit it. You will find a way to fit the environment you're in. The same way that if you sit in a chair all day, after a while, your body will do the things it needs to adapt to sitting in a chair for a long time. So what I'm looking at creating is a container for a different subtle field. It is a type of subtle field that has to do with increasing sensitivity to what is true, including the physical and subtle levels, both of them. And being able to clear the mind, to see what's true, and to use the mind well. And so looking at that possibility, and the idea of pushing that, because look, I just want to get this out, I want to see what happens, it's mechanical. So there's a slow organic process, feeling into, well, setting this up by getting the mechanics down doesn't do it. It has to be a subtle container. And I can feel exactly how to do it. It just takes time. And it has to work me. It's not something I'm doing to people. It's something where that frequency has to transform me. It has to work me. So that's a lot of what I'm engaging with here. And I really look forward to that. It's exciting to imagine what that's going to be. So as that fruitions, I bet I will say more. And in particular, I will say more not just in this stream of 100 Days of Visibility. Because that's not about these. With that, I will leave you.